The Right to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. And brought to you by Body Bio. Get 20% off any Body Bio order at bodybio.com with promo code FLAG, F-L-A-G-G. Ethos Support. Your customer support should not suck. Fix it at ethossupport.com/Ricky. Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process, 302-864-8643. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. And Surfside iced tea and vodka, 2 grams of sugar, 100 calories, and no bubbles because iced tea should not have it. On the show today, Daryl Morey, Mr. Cap Space himself, finally, after tons of pestering, returns to the Ricky. Surfside, iced tea and vodka, as I just mentioned, 2 grams of sugar, 100 calories. I will actually be at the Surfside Invitational next Tuesday, along with Jack and Ike. It's golf. I don't play golf. Mike, did you know that if you go to a golf course, you have to wear a collared polo?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was like a rule. I've never played golf or whatever. I didn't wear a collar.
You never play golf?
No. I can't because of my back. But
you never could have because of your back?
I mean, it's been 30 years in my back, so probably not. But I would like to play golf now, but I can't. Anyway, Surfside is, dude, the golfers, they fucking slurp this stuff up. They love it when they're playing golf, the Surfside. You should get some too. Get some iced tea and vodka, lemonade iced tea and vodka, peach tea, raspberry tea, whatever it is, wherever you get your canned cocktails, that's where you get Surfside. 2 grams of sugar, 100 calories. Do it. You got to be 21. Please enjoy it responsibly. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights of Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy wearing a jersey that felt so much different 10 months ago. That is one Mike Levin.
Yeah, so Daryl, after years of skepticism on my part, that the Sixers would the plan that opening up cap space would allow a free agent to sign here. And when we got Paul George within that cap space, Daryl then sent a somewhat excited, somewhat gloating cap space jersey to me, number 60, for how much cap space they had, which looks a little bit different now, doesn't it?
It sure does.
So I wore it in his honor today, and hopefully, maybe it can be a positive thing next year.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Before we get to the convo with Daryl, we've sent out several reminders, but Dave Silver and the NBA tried to fuck us again by moving the time of the lottery.
So why do you think that they tried to fuck us? What is?
Oh, because we have a whole big event planned.
But did they move it? I don't know that they actually moved the time.
Original time was 8, was 100% 8.
When?
What's that?
When?
Prior to the playoffs beginning.
Okay.
8 p.m. date.
Okay.
I've known it for 4 months.
But was that announced, or was that you doing your back channeling?
No, then it was back channel, but then it was even on the NBA website.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Yeah, he's always trying to fuck us. Don't let him off the hook. Anyway, in any case, that changes the time of the event. Lottery party and Live Ricky 6. Doors open. Come at 5 now rather than 6. Then Mike and Professor Jack at 6:30. Professor Jack taking this very seriously for the lottery party explainer, the tutorial, if you would. And then Then we will do the human sacrifice with the Ethos Support ping pong balls before the lottery, then live Ricky 6. So you can show up at 5. That's when the party starts. 6:30 is when the festivities really begin.
Very close. I'm flying in soon. It's all happening. I'm excited, man. They really got to get that pick.
They have to get the pick.
We talk about it to Daryl a lot.
Yes. It's a good conversation with Daryl. He answered every question we had after his
always.
Always.
And there's some questions that we have, like, you got to ask. And there's some questions that he's just like, yo, look, this is how this, what else can he say? But I think there were times when he was very honest and very real. And I appreciated that. And I feel right now very excited about next season and excited about what could happen in the draft and what could happen when guys get healthy. But it's hard. You look at they won like a game and a half last year. It was so bad, dude.
It's the worst season.
Worst season of all time.
Horrible.
So
yeah.
But we'll see. And I'm enjoying watching the playoffs. Knicks are on a 21-2 run right now in game 2.
Oh, really?
They are up 3 at this recording at a very awkward time to be saying this. You will know what happens by the end of this
Celtics were up 20 again.
Yeah, Knicks up 3. 45 seconds left. But they gotta get that pick, man. The pick's gotta happen. We gotta get back in these playoffs. We gotta beat these motherfuckers. I hate all of them. Not all of them, but especially Boston. But it's a good conversation with Daryl, and we got some stuff off our chest, which I feel good about.
Yeah. And as always, a good sport. So enjoy Daryl Morey, and then we will talk to you this weekend in the final pod before the lottery party. Here's Daryl. So how's it going?
Been a challenging year.
Yeah.
For everyone. Obviously, big day coming up. I'm wearing this shirt in honor of the last number 1 pick to go well for the Sixers. So.
Yep. Iverson did work out.
And I have the other high pick that has gone well for the Sixers behind me. So.
Yep.
And then we have Jared McCain on stage. We figure both the Capture the Flag Duke connection and the Adam Silver connection, the Duke Adam Silver connection, might all come together for us. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you bring it up. Have you been pushing ownership to rig the lottery? And if not, is it an indication that you don't care about winning enough?
Yeah. How much could it possibly cost?
I can say this: we're doing all we can.
Well, I love that. I love that, Daryl. We have no qualms about. Imagine all the ways that things are rigged in this world. It may as well work out for us in this extremely specific way.
Well, they rigged it in 85. They could rig it as an anniversary, rig it 40 years later.
I saw Joel today, and you can add him to he's like, why don't they do the lottery poll in front of everyone? Which is actually a pretty good point.
The NHL does.
Yeah, it was a bit of a disaster, I think. I think it was a little confusing for everyone when they were doing it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they do similar numbers thing. Yeah. So, I would say, I think, I would guess they'll probably do it in front of everyone. It is very transparent, though. It's in the back in front of many folks. So not me. I will know when everyone else knows. Myself, Elton Brand, and Nick Nurse we get a nice 3-pod station to face the music. I have had to call many friends who have been to the lottery. I've not been to the lottery, so this is my first time. We'll see how it goes.
How do you anticipate you're known to be the caricature of you is as such a clinical, soulless numbers guy, which I don't believe is entirely true. The numbers guy, maybe. I think there's a soul in there.
I agree.
But
if anything, tonight we've acknowledged the soul.
Yeah,
I think so. But adhering to the numbers, like they have you have a 2/3 chance of keeping the pick. Now you are at the hands of complete luck and fate. How do you approach that on there's no sample size. There is no like the odds, whatever. It is just one lottery ball pull, and this is what it is. How do you approach that mentally?
Mentally, I've had to just, pull myself away a little bit. Obviously, I can't control it. It is frustrating that how the season went last year will, in many ways come down to that. It was a rough year. We did some good developing of talent. I thought Coach Nurse and his staff did a good job with Edwards and Bona and Grimes and McCain. But a lot of it will come down to the pick, even though that pick is one we owe to OKC, like either this year or next year. Obviously, getting it in the top 6 this year versus likely or very hopefully later next year is a big deal. And it'll give us a tool. It could be an incredible tool. I would say the number 1 pick is maybe the most valuable asset in the NBA. You not only get a top player, you get one, that can fit into your larger salary structure for many years. So yeah, no, it's, we talk about in the playoffs, it's a make or miss league. I think, this is the lottery equivalent that you are judged, even if LeBron sets up a wide open, Boogie, Boobie Gibson, whether or not he makes it or not is he gets judged on that. And I think at the end of the day, we had a rough year. This could be one of the ways to make it slightly less rough. So,
Daryl, are you LeBron or Boobie in this analogy?
Well, I would never presume to be LeBron. I'm probably neither.
Are you the ball?
I could be the ball. Nick did hand out T-shirts to our team this year. The ball wins. So
okay, tough year for the ball.
I thought of myself as the ball until the year unfolded. Then I didn't want to be the ball. But so no, it's a lot riding on it for everyone, and I feel that weight of Sixers fans. Obviously, one of the big reasons when you go through a rough year that people rightly focus on is where does your pick end up? Who do you pick? How do they play the next year? So,
yeah, we didn't expect to ever do a lottery party again. For what it's worth, like it was sort of we were like, we'll never do that again. So
to go from 3rd in title odds to 5th worst in the league was very humbling and not a lot of fun. I didn't think it was even possible, as I think, even though I wasn't on the show, I think we caught each other during the year a couple times, and I thought it was very unlikely. We honestly, a bunch of guys had to get, like, more than just Joel had to get hurt. Like, the whole roster had to, and they did. So, if that's why there's so much riding on this, obviously.
Can we just, I'm sure we'll get back to lottery and future, but I would like to rewind for a second. You met, like, this was obviously it was a hard year for fans. It was a hard year for players. It was a hard year for you. Can you give
great summer though?
Yeah. Well, really, it was a great summer for all of us. We had a good time.
August stretched on and just kept going. So, yeah.
Well, can you give some insight as to what it is like to put together what you feel like is a successful plan, or what we all felt like? And when we're saying this, I'm sure you've heard on the podcast, like, we all thought this was great too. So it's not, there's no like told you so here, certainly not from us. What it's like to put together a plan and then have it start off so poorly and just never work, like what was that? Because once you put it together, you're sort of, there's nothing you can do anymore. There's very little you can do. So what was that like for you personally?
Well, it did fail right away. I would say first thing is, even though many were on board with the plan, I don't really accept that. Like, my job is to win, even regardless of that. So, we're spending a lot of time. What could we have done better? I think I spoke about it after the season. I did get too focused on, what are the pieces that are going to help us win a playoff series, and even how we spoke in training camp about getting our key players to the playoffs. It did set the wrong tone, and that will be something that I correct and Coach Nurse corrects. But a long lead into your answer, which is it never started like it. Joel was hurt right away. Never really played to the level we know he can play. And then it was like we had a Paul injury, a Maxey injury. Really the whole Drummond was. I mean, like it was really like. And then I did, and people made fun of it correctly. I mean, I do. I'm online. I read, and I care about the fans. I care about stewarding this franchise. And we really thought we'd make a push after the deadline, get Grimes. Joel was looking good as he was ramping up. Paul looked like he'd be back. And then, Joel was out very quickly and not playing to the level he could. So it was like I gave myself hope the whole way, and it just kept getting crushed right along with the fans. And I think, it's obviously been the toughest year of my career. No one has to worry about me, but I hate that the Sixers fans had to go through it with all of us. So,
yeah, you were really bummed through it, and I can tell you're bummed now. It makes it harder to make jokes at your expense or at our expense in this moment. But announcing that you use AI to help build the roster in the worst season of all time is a funny thing that happened. The if you squint comment is also a funny thing that happened. But I find myself enjoying hearing you talk about it on a like feeling how like nihilistically bad the season was. I find myself like, I think there's a humanity to that, and it makes me feel, and I think the fans generally feel like we're in it together a little bit more than just like, hey, like this didn't work out, but I'm already on to the next thing.
Yeah, no, we're in it together. I'm sure many fans probably don't want us all to be in it together. I mean, I think, when you have a rough year, often heads roll, and I get it. And look, I think, we need to prove that, we deserve to be here. And I think my squint comment for sure should be made fun of. So that one's a no-brainer. You can use that one forever. I think the AI one was whatever. It's a little unfair. Look, all 30 teams use AI, machine learning. I mean, I think, now we
just like in the
happen, let's say AI did it. If anything bad things happen, you can say I did it.
Well, I back you in that. It is just funny in that I'm sure somewhere like Sam Altman was like, no. ChatGPT didn't do this, like there was there's just sort of like the timing part of it is I think what Mike is referring to specifically.
Yeah. And obviously the timing was not planned. It wasn't like I held a press conference. I have every year I have the MIT conference, and someone asked me a question and I answered it frankly. And, it is, look, I mean, as you know, like we try to make great decisions. Obviously that sounds not so great right now after a rough season, but I think our track record overall is very strong in terms of like decision-making overall, and, using data and using all the forecasting tools at your disposal is a smart thing to make better decisions. It's pretty straightforward, but I get the timing was bad, but it for sure wasn't intentional.
No, of course not. It was funny though. It was funny for me as someone that thinks that shit sucks.
I mean, I'm here to create content for you guys,
which I appreciate.
Yeah,
which I appreciate.
A+ on that. Yeah,
which, by the way, was happening long before you got here. Let's just be clear about that. We've had content from the Sixers for a long ass time.
We take a break from this, hopefully very nice conversation with Daryl Morey, to tell you about Body Bio. Body Bio. We love Body Bio. Mike, Body Bio, going to be at Live Ricky 6 in the lottery party.
Yes,
Want to tell, what's that?
Just yes, indeed. Sort of
yes, indeed.
Hype man in the background.
Yeah,
firing in shots at the low end of the track.
He'll also be one of the potential little brothers selected.
That's good. That is good.
I want to tell you about Remineralize, product from Body Bio. Like Body Bio, been a Ricky partner for a long time. Told you about a lot of different Body Bio stuff. Remineralize. So minerals, you've heard of minerals, obviously, in science class. So our food, minerals are important to your body. And our food is grown in soil that has been like worked over so hard because of factory farming and stuff that there's less mineral content in there, which means that the food that you eat that is grown in that soil has fewer essential minerals. So also another thing, if you're filtering your water, that removes bad contaminants, which is good, but it also removes minerals, which is not good.
Not good.
That's where Remineralize comes in. It gets you a broad spectrum of minerals sourced from dried salt beds in Utah. Barely processed. They hate processing it. You just put a little bit in your water, like you do with E-Lite. Mike puts E-Lite and Remineralize in the water. He claims it tastes so awesome, he doesn't even like drinking regular water anymore. Seems like a suspect claim.
I think this is regular water. To me, regular water is that.
Yeah, it has Remineralize and E-Lite in it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So here's what I want you to do. Go to bodybio.com, use code FLAG, FLAGG, FLAG, for 20% off Remineralize or E-Lite or liposomal C or butyrate, whatever it is, whatever product from Body Bio you want, you're going to get 20% off with promo code FLAG. Try Remineralize. Get those minerals in your body, baby. Bodybio.com. Now back to Daryl.
All right. So one of the interesting things you said earlier in this conversation was about how you prioritize the playoffs and winning playoff games over the regular season too early on. You were skipping past the regular season, maybe as a criticism you would give yourself. And that kind of works in tandem, I think, with something you've said before about trusting too many playoff type, read older players that maybe wouldn't hold up as well over an 82 game season, don't have that kind of energy or just youth generally. So as we're looking towards free agency, towards the draft, and you're trying to fill some holes on this team, how does that look on a practical level as you're learning from those maybe past mistakes?
Yeah, I think especially in our rotation, we need to get more dynamic, more athletic. I don't think, you said older is necessarily wrong. I think we see many older players excelling in these playoffs, but and that experience we do think is valuable. But we do think the right pairing, now that we've had a year and Nick's even been able to experiment more than normal. In a rough year, we tried to maximize it with developing players, Nick experiment, and just get a better sense of what fits. We absolutely need to get easy baskets. It's a complete slugfest out there right now. Something resembling the basketball of my youth in the late 80s, early 90s. And you need to get easy baskets, and that's going to come through up-tempo, offensive rebounding, and you just need to be able to sustain the high level of intensity for a whole game. And so we do think, all else equal, very carefully saying that we need our rotation there, and we're on our way with Edwards, Grimes, McCain, Bona, the 35th pick, the hopefully first pick in the draft. We should get our rotation there. Getting the roster exact, I know I get a lot of grief and maybe justified that I say let's wait to see it in the playoffs. Obviously, this year being the worst. But, it may take a little time to get there, but I do think 5 or 6 of our rotation is going to be in their prime, in their first few years of their career next season. And we think that's the right fit.
Do you regret anything about the way you guys handled Joel and his injury? And looking back at last year, do you think coming back to, I think people forget that he hurt it again before the Knicks series. Mm-hmm. Do you think coming back for the Knicks series, so both things, do you regret any way that you handled it? And do you think coming back for the Knicks series or playing the Olympics had an adverse effect?
I think we were doing the best with the information we had at the time. I think we, obviously sitting here now with a very rough Joel year, it's even more front and center that we don't know how many years we have with Joel. So we felt like it was the right thing, especially given the doctor's advice that the playoffs were the right thing last year. With the benefit of hindsight, I think you can maybe say, okay, we know we lose to the Knicks. Why do that? But it also could have gone very well. This year, again, we making the best decision on the best medical advice. We, like the plan that he's on. He's with the guy who rehabbed Kawhi, did his surgery, is leading his rehab. Joel was, in New York working earlier this week with him. He has his guy as a big part of the process. So the work is there. And, we shall see. I guess we shall see. But we felt, given the information we have, it was absolutely the right thing we did.
Do you think he agreed that it was the right thing that you did?
I think there were, to be fair, it's a good question. You ask good questions. I do think there was a period, and some of it was real, some of it out of frustration by all of us, where when it wasn't progressing like all of us hoped, mostly him, that he was maybe like, okay, maybe we should have taken a different path earlier. I think that's fair, and I think he was pretty, he was very Joel open, I would call it. You guys know Joel. And yeah, I think he was probably right. With the benefit of hindsight, maybe you do some different things early in the year. But we also felt like we were in a good path from the doctors, and they thought it was the right path. So, we've all been in, similar to you say, we're all in the same boat, which was true earlier. We're all in the same boat. Like, Joel's very smart, very, very aware of his body, what it needs. He's worked with doctors his whole career through multiple tough injuries, including early, that turned out very well. So I have a lot of faith that between Joel giving great feedback and knowing his body and doctors that we'll get there. But when it doesn't go well, I think it's natural for everyone to question, should you take a different path?
What do you say to people that there's a lot of writing Joel off as that he's just never going to be playable in any real way ever again?
I would say, look, I mean, nobody knows what this future will be. We're optimistic, but nobody knows. I would say I'll give some examples. Last year, Kawhi pulls out of USAB for, it sounded like injury reasons. Nobody really knew. If you had asked then, like, people to say, was he going to play 45 plus minutes in a pretty intense playoff series, along with a lot of minutes down the stretch, I would think most people have said probably not. I'll take another example. These are positive examples. I can come up with negative ones, but I like to think the positive. Mm-hmm. If you take Brook Lopez, I think in his 32, 33-year-old season, I'll get these details mostly right, very injury prone through his career, plays 30 games. If you had asked everyone, including me, including AI at that time, to say how many games is Brook Lopez going to play the next 3 seasons, they would not have guessed 78, 79, and 80 in the next 3 seasons. So look, we have a wide range of outcomes. We're optimistic, but part of sports is to not know. And we are maybe the most unknown team in the NBA, or for sure in the NBA next year, if not somewhere close in NBA history, between, how Joel, and we'll know a lot more as the summer progresses, how he's progressing. So far, it's looking very good. Obviously, we had rosters up and down the injuries. How are they going to look? How are certain players going to look into their second year? McCain, had basically a college season, and he looked incredible. How is he going to look next year? That's a huge variance. Grimes was incredible. He'll be playing a slightly different role with us next year, but we know he can play it with the Knicks, so maybe there's less variance there. Paul, pretty wide variance. He had one of not his better seasons of his career. Will he bounce back? Most likely he will. I think if you ask most people, he would. So we have a lot of unknowns, but the good thing is if you're going through a tough year, what you'd want to have is a bunch of players developed, some really good hope on an early pick in the second, and hopefully a top 6 pick. And if it all comes together, we can win the title. I'd rather have that than where most teams are at.
And we take a break, but you're going to stick here right with us to tell you about Ethos Support. Our partner, Ethos Support, who, by the way, are supplying the ping pong balls for the human sacrifice at the lottery party. Thank you, Ethos Support. One thing I've noticed, I've become even more focused on because of Ethos Support, and now with my move and having to deal with all these different companies or whatnot, is customer support. Because so many times, you move in, something's not right, and you have to go to the website or call the number and get help.
Yeah, you're like a customer support influencer at this point.
Dude, it is. Yeah, because I was telling about a bad one. I have a bad one with the alarm company. I won't say the name of their company. They are the devil. And not because their product was bad. Their product was actually fine. It was because the customer support sucked. It's I think about it this way. When I was in a band, I said this once. Somebody told me once, if your singer sucks, people will say that singer sucks. If your drummer sucks, people will say that band sucks. Customer support is the drummer of your business. If you have great customer support, people will be advocates. They will feel good, even if something's wrong with the product. If you have bad customer support, people will hate you. I hate companies where I call and I can't get a human, or I get on the chat and I realize it's some AI thing. Anyway, Ethos Support is going to solve this problem for you. Doesn't matter how big or small your company is. They're going to put together a support team that is going to answer your customers' questions, that is going to make them advocates for you. And I know you think your customer support is okay because you have an email address on the website. Probably not good enough. You want it to be great. They will put together a customer support team that is custom for your business. And here's the other thing, no contracts. If you're not happy, you just walk away. Within 2 weeks, they can get you up and running, and not just phone, chat, email, social media. They'll work with you. They'll find the right people. They'll manage them for you. It's like this solution where they take care of everything. Call 240-593-2485. That's Blair. He's in charge of Ethos Support. You can even text him too. You can text him right now. Ask him if he's a little brother, or just go to ethossupport.com/Ricky. That is ethossupport.com/Ricky. Ethos Support. Back to Daryl. AI predicted, I just asked while you were saying it, Embiid to play 55, 48, and 42 the next 3 seasons. So,
okay,
Mike, go ahead. I just wanted to
see if you can ask it how many games Brook Lopez would have played after he played 30.
For sure.
Well, I have a ton of questions off the stuff you just said. Since you just brought Brook back up, are there things that...
By the way, can I just say one thing? That is not how we use AI.
I know.
No, but I think people think that.
Well, but they're always going to think wrong.
Okay,
so,
all right. So it's a pointless discussion because they'll always think it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, and we don't want to get into machine learning algorithms. That's
Please, God, can we not talk about fucking machine learning algorithms on this podcast?
It says ML. It's ML it's
machine learning.
Yeah, machine learning. Basically,
right,
Michael.
I'm changing my name. I'm changing my name.
Change your name to machine learning. You
brought up Brook Lopez.
You just want
Brook Lopez. You brought him up.
All right.
Are there things I've talked about this as like a really nice outcome for the Joel's, back end of his prime into the later years of his career? Are there things you would like to see Joel do more in the Brook Lopez way that extend his career, extend his usefulness, and sort of lower his usage rate and the taxing on his body?
I should be clear when I was mentioning Brook Lopez, that was just from a games perspective. Obviously,
I understand.
MVP player.
I understand.
And not a level
No one should aggregate this
Yeah,
to
exactly.
you comparing Joel Embiid.
Don't worry, they will, unfortunately,
Okay.
but you guys can help me maybe defend.
Yeah.
That was just to point out we don't know how injuries are going to turn out. Not that they're the similar player or level of play. I actually was unfamiliar. So you're basically what is your hypothesis, Mike? I haven't heard it. So
just the idea that as he gets older, less mobile, less bouncy, which obviously we've seen as the years go on. He's never particularly handled double teams incredibly well, although he's improved in that area, especially under Nurse. And as Maxey and McCain take steps forward and, maybe you get a pick, just, the higher upside guy or the higher end guy is like the end of career Tim Duncan. The end of career where he's deferring more to Ginobili and Parker.
Tim Duncan's a good example, actually, who went through many rough years and then had a very, very strong end of career, including won a title during that period. I sort of want to reject the premise of your question to compare Brooke and Joel. I think if Joel comes back, it's going to be at a very high level. I actually don't see a scenario where he's fading. I see he loves
because last year he did. Last year when he played, he looked the worst he's looked in his career by a significant margin.
I understand that wasn't his best year. My point is different, though. My point is I see him playing at a high level, and that's so important to him that he will either get himself there or not. That's my feeling. Like, I think he views himself correctly as an MVP level guy. And obviously this is up to him, but I don't see these scenarios where he is in a mode of a much, a lesser version.
Yeah. Sort of fading into a role player place. You don't see him being.
Yeah, I just getting to know him. I mean, I think he loves winning so much that that's why he spoke about how mentally hard it was to where he was at last year. That it's so important for him to win and to be who he knows he can be. That I think it's hard for him to have to not be that. So,
well, independent, sorry, Spike, let me just finish this run of questions about Joel. But independent of the fingers crossed he's healthy conversation, which you can't answer, no one knows, we'll have to see. There is obviously a huge difference in how you as a front office with Elton and the organization build a team if you are counting on Joel to be healthy and playing at close to his high level play, versus acknowledging he's going to be in and out. There's going to be a full season he misses. There's going to be a season where he plays 40 games and then drops over. He's useful for some of it, goes away, whatever it is. And we should build around Maxey, McCain, and the draft pick, which you should be rigging it for. Obviously, it's premature to ask this question before the lottery, but since we have you before the lottery, like how do you as an organization sort to balance those two goals in mind where you're trying to have a shot at competing now, but also knowing that on a practical level, it is unlikely now?
Yeah, it's the right question. I would say one of the things that's helpful is that the direction we need to take in the players around Joel, Paul, Tyrese is the right direction in pretty much whichever scenario we end up in. I do think there's some inflection points as we see how the team plays next year, how good Joel looks, how good the whole roster looks health-wise. But a lot of those come closer to the deadline. So I think it's a bit of a high wire act, which is why you're asking the question. But I think most of the decisions where you would take a fork in the road don't come until a little bit later, if that makes sense, what I'm saying.
Even given all of the injuries last year, do you think the team should have been better?
I would say yes. Yes. I mean, I guess until maybe the end. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
When we had nobody, but
right.
I thought we were not as good as we should have been, even especially early. And then it just sort of like piled on, and then it was almost like hard to get your bearings. Like I felt like maybe we just forgot how to play basketball. It was like really, really hard. Yeah.
And we take a break from our conversation with Daryl Morey. We all need a break every once in a while.
Right there.
Just don't go anywhere. Talk about Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. Ksebe. Adam Ksebe is the king of the Delaware beaches. He's just like, he walks around, suit, no tie with the shirt unbuttoned halfway.
Shirt, wide open. Because he's suit, chest.
Suit, chest. The Saturday after the lottery, I'll be doing the pod at this guy Seth's house. I believe he was the first person to purchase a house through Ksebe as a Ricky listener. I said I'd do the pod at his Rehoboth beach house. So that's where I'll be. Ksebe is like, I've said this when I talk about Mortgage CS and I talk about Ksebe. It is, if you're looking to buy a home right now, it can be a challenge. There's not a lot of inventory. There's not a lot of houses out there. It's very competitive. And you need all of your assets at your disposal. When you're looking at beach houses, Delaware especially, because everybody knows now that the property taxes are so much lower and the beaches are just as good, obviously actually better than Jersey, you need somebody like Ksebe in your corner. Yeah. Ksebe. His team is based out of Long and Foster in Bethany Beach, and they have all of Delaware beaches covered. Even Maryland too. Ocean City, Maryland's very nice as well. But whether you're looking at Rehoboth or Dewey or Bethany or Lewis or whatever it is, they'll hook you up. They can be your partner. They will help get your offer over the finish line. They will tell you the best properties that nobody else knows about. I'm just telling you, you need to buy a house. Kasabi's your guy. And if you're looking to buy or sell a house not in Delaware or Maryland, Ksebe can't specifically do it for you, but he should be your first point of contact. Because what you do is you go to Ksebe, you tell him what you're doing, what you need, and he finds the perfect realtor for you. So you only need one realtor. 302-864-8643. That is his cell. So call or text 302-864-8643 or adam@processrealtor.com. That is Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. I know you think, and I'm not saying anything to the contrary, but I know you believe that Nick Nurse is a good coach, and that's why you hired him, and that's why he's still here. What do you think that he could have done differently to affect the even looking back and saying, hey, maybe at the end of the day, being in this position is better than having won 35 games. But all that being said, what do you think he could have done differently to make the team more competitive?
Yeah, I think I don't want to be total cop out, but I'd rather have him answer that. But I would say even he's said the messaging early. It was really more myself and some Joel, some Paul, honestly. Like we all could have just had a better approach early. And I think Nick, would agree with that even for himself early. In terms of during there, I try to simplify it. We know that Nick will win a title if he has the horses, like he's done it. And I thought he did a tremendous job last year through, people forget it was like a challenging year last year too. And, we, didn't beat the Knicks, but gave it a run, which, I guess isn't worth a whole lot, but I thought it wasn't on Nick. I see Nick as like, once he has the horses, we're going to be in a good place. That's my belief. And I think he's probably better to answer where it could have gone better.
You look around the league right now and you see a ton of continuity in a lot of the teams that are succeeding in these playoffs. You look at Indiana, obviously Cleveland's dealing with injuries, Boston, obviously the Knicks. I guess I have a ton of people that with continuity, but some new aspects as well. But
Nuggets.
The Nuggets, of course. Yeah, a ton of them. But the Maxey, Joel, and Paul George, and you can add maybe McCain to that. didn't have really any on-court time last year together to build any sort of chemistry. How can you, as the organization, encourage them or support them in building that during the off season so that when the season starts, it is off and running rather than playing yourself into shape, figuring each other out, learning each other's tendencies and stuff? Is that something that you are conscious of? And
yeah, that was a big focus of our exit meetings, really by us, but also led by the players. Tyrese, Paul, and Joel all live in a stone's throw of each other now. There's there has been lots of get-togethers, runs together. That won't happen with Joel because I don't think Joel will be there basketball-wise, but with Tyrese and Paul. So as much as you can, I will say, look, I hope you guys know I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I don't know how much that moves the needle in the offseason. It doesn't mean we shouldn't push on it. In fact, it came up a lot in the meetings how to do that. We're going to have a very focused, a longer training camp. I do think those move the needle not as much as we'd hope relative to we're going to have to, get some comfort level. There's going to be theoretical continuity, which you're pointing out. There's going to be quite a few of the same players back. I believe, Kelly, I think Drummond, I think Eric, they're all likely to come back. I think they've said that themselves publicly. So there's going to be continuity, and there's going to be continuity among our young players who got to play together that will likely move into the rotation next year. But in terms of continuity of the young players with a full complement of Paul, Joel, and Tyrese, that was pretty rare. Yeah, we know. And even in the games when it happened, someone was hurt or they didn't finish the game, or, it was like, honestly, it was hard to believe, so it really, really was hard.
What do you think you learned about Tyrese as a player last year?
Well, I think the defensive progress was hugely encouraging and mega important. I do think he pairs very well with Quentin in terms of that can be a defensive backcourt that can work. And yeah, I mean, it's a league where you have to play physical and you do have to generate turnovers, and I thought Tyrese took big strides there. And I think he also took big strides that if he's one thing that helped is he almost faced playoff defenses when he played because there was no one else to stop. So I think that will help. So that's probably the biggest thing. I do think playmaking is something that he continues. It would help a lot if he progressed, and I know he knows. I think transition play, we talked a lot about in his exit meeting. He's sneaky, not a great transition guard. You would never expect it given his speed, but he either has sort of a speed up the floor, or he gets into sort of point guard mode. I'm going to run a play, and we end up missing out on a lot of sort of what would normally be some good percentage early transition opportunities because of it. So I know that's going to be an emphasis. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned you think Grimes and Maxey is a backcourt that can work defensively. Do you think McCain and Maxey is a backcourt that can work?
I think this is stuff that's going to be up to Nick, but I think historically it's been hard. The only way McCain, Tyrese type, your two guards guarding ones and twos, is if you have a very strong rim protecting big can make that work. And if we have Joel, we'll be fine. Our defense had no chance this year, none. We had no Joel. Drummond was either hurt or not playing up to his level. Bona by the end was helping. Yabu was awesome for us. We'd love to get him back, but he defensively is not. rim protection is not his strength. So we were like fighting uphill from the start defensively. So I do think it works to go near elite rim protector, but otherwise I think it's challenging. Yeah.
Maxey McCain, obviously you wish one of them was 6'7", but you get the young building blocks drafted in the middle of the first round that you get. What do you learn from small guard pairings over the last few years, Garland and Mitchell, Lowry, VanVleet, Damon CJ, that kind of thing, that you can utilize to help those two succeed, whether they're starting together or their minutes are staggered or in some way, but they will share the court together a lot if they're healthy.
Well, and I think it's also shifting just how physical the game is. So it can absolutely work. You have to have the other team taking the ball out of the hoop. So you're not, again, we had everything snowball for us this year, so everything didn't work. But we were missing enough. People are in transition back at us. Whatever, just everything was rough. But when it's working, you're scoring at high rates so that they're taking it out of the hoop. That allows you to at least set your defense. That allows you to get your shell in place. I think those kinds of guard switching can help. Just keep people in front of you. Now we're in Nick's territory here. So, but it has worked, to your point. You mentioned it, but a lot of those you could look at the bigs and say, they were very helpful in putting at least an average defense on the floor when both of them are out there. So, but I think, we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. Obviously, McCain was on a rookie of the year. He was like 55% to be rookie of the year when he went out. And he's likely to improve into year two. That's usually what happens. But we don't really think about it. Like, we think of it as, franchise level, top all-star level, top starter level, and then, starter / key reserve are the same thing for us, meaning just guys who are going to play 25 to 35 minutes. You don't really necessarily have to worry too much about exactly when they're playing. And I would think, again, off the top of my head, I would think McCain being out there for all the minutes Maxey's not would be a positive thing to do.
And we take a break from Daryl Morey. Daryl, shut up for 1 second. Just shh for 1 second.
Down, big dog.
We have to talk about Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. Look, I'm just going to be a little secret about it right now. Kornblau's working on something for me right now.
Oh, wow. Who we suing?
Kornblau's working on something for me right now.
I want somebody's head on a pike with Kornblau fucking spray painted on it.
Yes.
That's what I want, baby. This is punk. Nothing's more punk than Kornblau. Let's go.
Oh, man. Kornblau and Kornblau is it's the only personal injury law firm you need. Quite honestly, I would tell you, no matter what your legal issue is, Kornblau just does things that he finds like challenging. He just wants to win. He's like obsessed with that. So I'm just going to say he does personal injury. That's what he does, but he'll do whatever you need, especially if you're a Ricky person. Kornblau and Kornblau been there 4 decades. Parents started it. He runs it now. You're going to get the service, the communication, the results from Kornblau and Kornblau like nobody else. And he's not one of those bullshit law firms that advertises and then you call and they're like, we can't actually practice law in your state. We're just going to send you to somebody else. That's not what Kornblau does. You reach out to him, you're getting him. You're getting Adam Kornblau. Offices all over the Delaware Valley. He'll come to you if he needs to. He doesn't care. Fucking lunatic. Does house calls. I've never heard of a lawyer doing that. Whether it is a car accident, whether it's slip and fall, whether it's injured at work, medical malpractice, which they excel in. If you think you have a case, you just got to reach out to him, shoot him an email, or give him a call. 215-576-7200. That is 215-576-7200. Ask for Adam, or email Kornblau at kornblauandkornblau.com. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process.
Maxey was, not Maxey. I feel like we had the same conversation about Maxey a couple years ago that they're asked the same question that I'm going to ask about McCain. Is that, like, I think at one point was a couple years in, I asked you, I was like, is Maxey better than you thought? And you said, yes, absolutely. Like, he's way better. McCain in his short time, especially from I thought an unimpressive summer league and preseason, like kind of blew us all away. Did he adapt better to the NBA more quickly than you thought he would?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound like, 100%. In fact, I always have to remind myself not to worry as much about summer league and all this kind of. I mean, I learned that so early. So I drafted Carl Landry in Houston. Everyone here knows him as well because he was here for a while. And I couldn't tell you how bad he was early in summer league, and I literally thought, this is it. I've already blown my first draft pick, or my third draft pick, I guess. And yeah, I mean, one of the things that I love about Jared, and it's probably a reason he's on the stage in a few days in Chicago, is, he's built for the moment. Like he's adapting quick. He really listened to Lowry this year. Lowry was helping him throughout the year. Obviously his other vets as well, but Lowry, because he was hurt and, has won a title and one of the craftiest, highest basketball IQ guys out there. They really hit it off early. So
it's so weird. I'm finding myself in a very weird place talking about the team, as I always do. And you mentioned it before of like that, whatever it was, third or fifth best odds to win the title to like the fifth worst team in the league. And so on the one hand, I feel like you look at the guys on the roster, you look at possibly a top 6 pick, re-signing guys, some young players that improved over the course of the season. And you could, I'm not going to say if you squint, because we don't do that around here. But you look at it and you could go, hey, I sort of feel good about next season. I sort of feel like excited about some young players, some established MVP level vets, and us against the world mentality that they could, take it out over the course of a full season and going into the playoffs with something to prove. With Joel especially knowing that it's towards the end of his rope of playable time. And on the other hand, I feel like a fucking idiot. Looking at this and go like, it went so bad last year in ways that are borderline unquantifiable. And so as you're looking at where to go from here, how do you consider the team? Can you look at last year as a borderline blip, or do you feel like a fucking idiot?
It's such a good lead in. I would say,
God bless you, man, for coming on the podcast. Honestly, God bless you. Yeah,
we're. I think the Sixers are a wonderful basketball Rorschach test. You sort of see what you want to see, and we won't know until next year. That's frustrating, but probably true. But let's go through the things you might want in a team as a fan. You'd want, a chance to win the championship. Debatable, but for sure a higher chance than many teams. I think our roster going into next year, assuming healthy, is better than the one that went into last year with the third best title. It's now you have to adjust for the fact that we had such a bad year. So that's going to push you down for sure. But I'd rather have a Grimes and a McCain and maybe whoever our draft pick turns into than what the roster looked like going into last season, which was built mostly out of free agency, out of necessity. You'd want a good set of young players to root for. Again, you can debate it, but I think we have that. I think we have Tyrese Maxey. I think we have Grimes. I think we have McCain. We have Bono. We have Edwards. We have maybe a top 6 pick. We have a lot of hope. You'd want to have a team that can keep improving and has a great future. We have every top pick. Yeah, most teams are Phoenix. They're the Clippers at this stage of their lives. They don't have their top picks. If we're going to go through a rough year, we have a very good chance at a top pick in any year going forward. In fact, only like 3 teams control more of the top of the draft than us right now. People are going to be like scrambling to look that up, but it's true. We hold the unprotected Clippers pick. We own the swap with them. And if our pick's ever in the top few of the draft, we're always going to get it. So, look, I think you can see a lot of things that are very positive. Obviously, that's how I choose to look at it. I'm a Sixers, part of the Sixers. But you look and we won 20 whatever games, 24 or something, and you go, Okay, that all sounded good, except this team's in a rough place. So until we look, we know we have a lot to prove. Until we get out there and prove it, I think it's right to be skeptical, but I think there's a lot to be excited about too.
Yeah. Should people be excited about Paul George?
I think yes, absolutely. I mean, you just look at. I don't want to overharp it, but he shot like 20% on wide open corner threes. Like, that's just not going to happen. That was on,
and that was after like for years being like in the 40s and the 50s on corner.
Yeah,
threes.
Exactly.
The stat I keep coming back to how badly he shot on corner threes last year.
It's not going to happen. And look, I'm not here to say he had a great season. He wouldn't say that, but he's again, you plug it into any model, even ask anyone on the street that's a knowledgeable fan like you guys. You'd bet on a better Paul George. You'd go to Vegas and say, I think he's going to have a better year, regardless of his age, because most of his game isn't really age based. Like it's shooting. And his defense did not drop off. His defense was elite, and in a league where you need elite defenders on the wing. So I think he's still a great fit. He's a wonderful team guy. And look, he had a lingering thing that he's had a few years that he got to take care of because it's something that he always wanted to take care of, and he did. So, I think I'm optimistic.
Does it concern you that he kept getting to the basket less and less and settling for maybe contested long twos?
Yeah, I think some of that's like out of necessity, though, like with a full. Okay, so Jared McCain's not shy. Grimes can do it. We just saw it. Tyrese Maxey can beat his guy, and Joel is one of the best, maybe, right there with Will Chamberlain and a few others, the best offensive bigs of all time. That's not going to be something we need if we're in our best version. Yes, all else equal in a bad year, it would be awesome if he was still an elite, beat a guy off the dribble, but it's just not going to be that important in our best version, and hopefully we see it.
One of the things that I've been growing more frustrated by over the course of the last few years is rebounding. Mm-hmm. The Sixers, when Ben Simmons was here, was basically a top 10 rebounding team every year. Ben leaves, and they've been essentially a bottom 10 rebounding team every year. Like sort of culminating in getting crushed on the glass in the Knicks series. You're now seeing a lot of teams go to some pretty extreme double big lineups, especially in these playoffs. Since Joel isn't elevating for rebounds like he used to, how are you thinking about how to improve that as you surround him with?
Yeah, I think younger, more athletic will be helpful. I do feel like sometimes I'm like in some bizarro world because I've literally made, people. There are a lot of different ways that, I've lasted in this league, but I was like Mr. 3-pointer and Mr. Rebounding. So for me, it's just, and also defense was the first thing, like our teams in the late aughts, I guess is the way you say it, that challenged the top teams in the West a few times were all the best defensive teams in the league. So it's actually very strange for me to have a team with our players have their best skills are, not necessarily 3-pointers, and we don't have a strong rebounding team. And a lot of it's just the league's gotten smarter. Not to go back to the famous letter, but when the market's valuing one thing, you tend to go towards the value where it is. And rebounding is something that is extremely valued around the league right now, especially if you can lift your team's rebounding. Obviously, we did try to address Drummond. I mean, Joel and Drummond are both elite defensive rebounding. Not, I guess, elite's wrong for Joel, but very good in the case of Joel. And Drummond's one of the best that ever played. Like if you go back and look. So we did try to address it, but we do need to address it. We need to get bigger. That's not going to be snapping our fingers, unfortunately. But we need to get bigger. And rebounding as shooting percentages go down, rebounding becomes more important. And shooting percentages are going down because you can basically play MMA all game right now. So we all have to adjust. We're not necessarily built right now for the new MMA NBA.
You think that'll continue from playoffs to regular season?
I do. Yeah. I think what happens, and I've lived through these transitions, so I know it. Teams are going to now value and build to be, because you can hold, clutch, grab, restrict movement. They're going to continue to push that button until it gets called. It's just like, being fouled on 3-pointers. That, everyone started to figure out how to get it until the league changed the rules and made it much harder. So yeah, anything that the league is valuing and the league's gotten a lot smarter, people are going to press on it more. So, it's going to become Jerry Sloan, Utah out there, in my opinion, where you foul so much they can't call it all. And they're not calling anything right now. Really, literally nothing.
Well, for what it's worth, it started not this past season, the season before, after the All-Star break.
Not even after. It was actually right before. You can look. Yeah. It's shocking in the data, and even the league is talking.
They denied that they changed anything too. It was the funniest thing I ever saw.
Look, at the end of the day, I generally directionally support it. I just think we need to monitor it, and they're going to have to start calling something, or otherwise it will just be complete non-basketball out there at some point.
What would your response be to a question? Now, this isn't my question because I think I know the answer, but I want to give you an opportunity to say the answer. Is why did you sign? Why was it a good idea to sign Joel Embiid to the extension when he had years left on his contract?
Yeah, I just think if we're winning the title, Joel Embiid's on the team. I think it's important how these top players, and Joel's going to be one of the top players all time, regardless of how things get written from here, in terms of everyone knows how good he was in his MVP year and multiple years around that. When you go out and get a top free agent like we did with Paul, obviously, people are questioning that, but, we thought that was absolutely the best way to maximize the window with Joel. It's pretty hard to do those kinds of moves and not have those players on similar timelines. If you have one person, if you have a Paul George on a longer timeline and Joel Embiid on a shorter timeline, that doesn't work great. It was just a 2-year extension. We thought it was very logical. People talk about it being 3. It was 2 years. Doesn't seem like anyone wants to, again, look, for sure. And I just think how you treat your top level players, you look at all the teams that are destinations. I think Philadelphia will be for a long time. Witnessed by us recruiting the top free agent last year. I think it's important how you treat the top players, and again, in any time window measured in a number of years that no one wants to talk about, the way we're winning it is with Joel Embiid getting healthy and playing at a high level with really top players around him like Tyrese and Paul.
Gotta ask, I think I know the answer, but somebody calls this offseason about Joel and Paul George, thinking that you guys will want to fully commit to the future. Is that something the front office would have a conversation about?
I didn't understand the question. Say it again.
A team calls asking about Joel or Paul George, saying for a trade of here's this expiring contract and a couple picks. If that's in that world, which maybe it isn't. We're not living in that world. But is that something that the front office would consider moving on from and refocusing on the next generation, or are you?
We're committed to Joel and Paul. I mean, I guess that's what I would say.
Okay.
So looking, you could get no pick. You could get the first pick, the second pick, the third pick, the fourth pick. Do you have loose ideas of what you're doing? Obviously, you're not telling me, and you already intimated that if you get the first pick, you're taking Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, I think one. I mean, I think it's better to play coy usually because you might want to look at trade options. But I think this might be one of those years where it's fairly obvious. So whatever.
Okay.
I think
I love when you get coy. I think you coy is as charming as it gets. I think.
I think that was an insult, but whatever.
No.
It's fine.
No, come on.
So I think we can just drop the act, right?
Sure.
I think anything except one. I think everything's on the table. Trade up, trade down, trade back, get more again, all the options are there. I know some of those scare Sixers fans. I think our recent trade up went poorly. I think our recent trade back went poorly. I think picking went poorly. I think all three, if you just I can all three. I'm now thinking of scenarios, they all went poorly, but we're going to do at each number whatever we think is the best based on who's picked in front of us. Yeah. I mean,
do you have thoughts about how first round picks are being valued around the league right now?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. I would say people are much more reluctant to trade them. And most of that's because teams have figured out the only thing that matters is, do you have a Joel Embiid on your team? Do you have an MVP candidate on your team, or you're not winning the title? And so they save all their picks for that moment. And it's very rational. So it's pretty rare for first are traded less. They're actually protected less because they want to be conveyed. So you can continue to offer 5 picks in a trade, if the next, Kevin Durant comes available, whatever it might be. And so that's made seconds more valuable. So part of our trade was, the one at the deadline was not just to get a look at Jared Butler, but also to arbitrage that. We think it's arbitraged a little bit too much the other way, and getting 4 picks that have a pretty reasonable chance to be high in the second round, we thought was pretty valuable for team upgrades, especially for a pick that was likely to be 29 or 30 or something. So yeah, I do think it's shifting. Swaps have become more prevalent than trading picks because swaps, allow you to continue to trade multiple firsts in a big package. There's some superstars that are going to be rumored to be moving this summer. You guys can look them up, and people are going to be offering, lots of picks for, and going to want to have a big pick package for those things. So.
Can't believe how bad this year was, man. Really
couldn't have been worse.
Couldn't have been worse.
And you guys had to talk about it 3 times a week or whatever.
Just twice.
Only twice.
Easy breezy.
Only twice. Okay.
Yeah.
It's still, that's a lot of talking, but at least Spike does it for a living, and then you write the words.
It's all the same.
So
yeah.
Who's more depressed if the pick doesn't convey, me or you?
Man, that's I think me, because you just love those early seconds, so you'll still have
that is true.
Something to get very excited about.
Yeah, that's true.
I love early seconds too. We have a great track record there, and
I get to make that pick this year, right? You're letting me?
Yes,
if you guys get number 1, can Mike make a second round pick?
Let me make 35.
We're usually fairly simpatico, so it may just happen anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, look, I mean, this is very important. We get the pick, and very important we nail it. And, we feel good about, our track record, obviously there both since I've been here, and, we have great scouts. And so we're, again, big off season to nail the draft. Last year was a big free agent off season. This is a big draft off season. So.
All right. If we don't get the pick, then we're having Booby Gibson on, and we're gonna have him talk shit about you for missing the 3.
For the miss. I got you.
And last thing for me. So right after the lottery, we're doing a live show on a stage in front of 1,000+ people, and Gershon Yabusele will be our guest. Is there a message you would like to extend to Gershon? We won't play this on the stage, but any thoughts on Yabu before we talk to him?
I mean, he's really embraced Philly, which is exciting.
Yeah.
He's going to have many great options. I mean, he's very valued around the league. So hopefully he understands how important he is to us and the fans of Philly. Him being at your event, I think we'll just put I think you actually might help us in free agency by having him there. So
I believe we might a little. We might get you a slight bargain.
Thus far, we've only hurt. So this is...
is that true? The draft lottery has a bad history or something?
Well, I mean, I think league wide, I think you know, a Colangelo or two might have been thrown at us because of our behavior. Like
Oh, well, that's
that kind of
true.
situations.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Before my time, so probably can't.
Yeah. Can't call it. Well,
Daryl, we always appreciate you so much.
very much.
Thanks for having me on.
And I'm
appreciate
excited for whatever jersey you're going to send me this offseason. I think it's going to be good.
Hopefully it says number 1 or flag or something.
Yes, flag.
So,
yep.
yeah.
All right,
Just
Daryl.
fine.
And there was Daryl. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Mike, do you have any closing comments?
No, I mean, it's just Daryl being Daryl, right?
Yep.
Like, I think the people that don't like Daryl are going to listen to that and be like, yep, still don't like him. And the people that do are going to be like, well, I appreciate how he handled that and the predicament that he was in. Some of it was his fault and some of it was just like bad luck and shit. So this is Sixers basketball, man. What do you do? This is what we do. This is what we do and how we choose to live our lives together, all of us.
Like a bunch of fucking morons.
Yes.
We will talk to you this weekend. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah, you know, lick face.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you! Time for plan B.